Hi and welcome to Conversations with Robin. As you know, we've been filming a number of shows on the Great Walk to Beijing, which is part of the fundraising for Olivia Newton-John's Cancer Research and Wellness Centre. And on today's program, we have someone who actually used to be my pin-up when I was like about, 12, 13. Cliff Richards, thank you so much for being on the program.
Not at all.
Or should I say Sir Cliff Richards?
No, actually, sir, you don't need to use it all the time. It's very nice to be introduced like that, I must admit. But all you need to do, if you're standing when you're speaking to me, just curtsy.
Curtsy. Well, actually, it's interesting because when we were on the walk yesterday, I was asking you around that time when you received your title and how that was for you. Can you just share a bit about that?
Yeah, I can, because it's burnt into my memory. I think of all the things that I've been given over in my lifetime. That's probably the best accolade I've ever received. Because getting a knighthood is not something you can work for. You know, when you make a record, you can think, well, that sounds really good. Let's go for a gold. You may not get the gold, but you can aim at it.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see that any one of us could have ever sat down and said, I'm going to go for a knighthood. It just doesn't work that way. So when the letter came, and it does come in the form of a letter from the Prime Minister's secretary saying, the Prime Minister has decided to put your name forward for a knighthood. He's presented the letter to the Queen. If she says yes, that's okay, are you prepared to receive it? And was I prepared? Oh, letter page burned as I wrote, yes, please. But the thing was, I was sworn to secrecy then, because the letter came, I think, in the summertime. And then I had to wait till it was officially announced by the palace in the papers. And if in fact it had got out at all, then they said it would immediately be withdrawn, the opportunity. Yeah, so it was terrible. I wanted to tell all my friends all about it, but I couldn't. You know.
Yeah.
I shared it with one or two people, but that's all. People had swore to secrecy as well. And but going to, just going to the palace. I've been to the palace a number of times, and it's always awe-inspiring. It just is, because, are we the only country in the world that still has this sort of physical attachment to history? Having a queen that is, you can trace it back to Henry VIII and all those others before him as well. And yet she still lives in the same palaces. Our palaces are not just museums, they're actually homes for some of these people. So it's quite an awe-inspiring thing to go there. And on the day of the knighthood presentation, I was separated, but there were a whole bunch of people went, because the awards are given to, across the board, MBEs, OBEs, CBEs, all sorts of awards, and of course knighthoods and lordships. So when you get to the palace, I was separated with about 4 or 5 other people who were also getting knighted. And we were taken to a corner of a very well-appointed room, beautiful carpets on the floor and chaise lounges in gilt and stuff. It was really rather nice. And this guy came and said, okay, now I'm going to run you through what you have to do. Now you think this may be easy for you. You're not going to get nervous at all. He said, but please do everything I suggest. The main thing he says, there is this kneeler. And it was a thing about that high off the ground, and it was a platform of a tapestry type material. But the main thing was it had this armrest. Not an armrest, but an arm hold. So when you knelt, you could put your hand on this. He said, and don't be macho, please. Do hold. He said, I have seen people fall off this. And so that struck a chord with me. I thought that's the kind of thing that would happen to me. So you go forward to the Queen when it's your time, and you kneel, you hold, and you put your head down. She brings a sword, taps you on the shoulder, and then she stands up, and he said, do not speak. Do not say anything until she speaks to you. And of course, I always hoped that she'd say, arise, Sir Cliff. But she doesn't do that. Apparently Hollywood created that.
Yeah, okay.
That doesn't happen. So the shoulders were tapped. You then had to stand up and lean forward. She placed the order of the knighthood around you as a medal. Then she may or may not speak to you. And she did. She actually said to me, the Queen said, well, she said, this seems to have been a long time coming. And I was so emotional. My sisters were in the room watching me, and it was a high moment for me. And I babbled. I didn't know what I was talking. I couldn't talk. I said to my sisters afterwards, I said, the Queen must have been saying to herself, why didn't we give it to somebody who could at least speak English? It was just a very, very emotional time. I'm sure she's been through it before.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a real highlight of my career, my life, really. And a couple of years later, when I was at Wimbledon as a knight, and I was sitting with my two sisters, two of them came with me, and I said, can you believe it? Can you ever believe that we would be sitting in the members' enclosure of the Wimbledon Club during Wimbledon, and you're sitting with a knight? I mean, it was just beyond our wildest dreams. It's just the best, wonderful thing.
Well, okay, in you sharing that, when you were a young boy, what was your plan for your life? Did you have one? Was there something you aspired to?
I don't remember having any plans, really. It's just that, you know, the singing urge came for me quite early. And then Elvis happened, and Elvis Presley was an inspiration to the whole of my generation. And even though when I look back, I can see that people like Sinatra, Bing Crosby, Perry Como, Teresa Brewer, these were wonderful singers. They didn't inspire us the way that Elvis and the others that followed him inspired us. And so all I know is that I wrote a letter to somebody in Australia. In England, we were given, well, obviously in Australia too, in our schools, we were encouraged to have a pen pal. Probably because we would then get used to writing information to somebody. And so I was given a name and address. It was a girl. And I wrote, and years later, this woman sent me a photofax copy of the letter I'd written, my first letter I'd written to her. And she said, I've still got it. And it was signed Harry Webb. And it simply said, and I bring this up because I didn't realize I was this young when I wanted to sing. Because it said, I can't remember her name. Let's say, Dear Helen, my name is Harry Roger Webb. I go to this school in Cheshunt. It's the Cheshunt Secondary Modern School. I'm 12 and a half years old, and my ambition is to be a singer.
Amazing.
Now, I don't remember feeling that way when I was 12 and a half.
Wow.
So that's how long that's how far back it goes. And I can remember having a love for listening to music, of course, but then most people of that age, young people, do like listening to music anyway. It doesn't necessarily mean they want to be singers. But I remember that my mother and father, because I was born in India, my parents used to have big wax records and one of those wind-up turntable things. And the big party piece that I would do, my mother would say, when she had a group of her friends over, and this was prior to my ever learning to read, she'd say, Harry, go and find me Chewing a Piece of Straw, which is one of the songs. And I would apparently go through these records, all these, I don't know, 30 or 40 records that she had, and I would come back. Somehow I found a way of recognizing the record sleeve or the record label. And so I always say that showed my interest. My interest was there because I was messing about with records and I was listening to people sing. But all I know is that it was Elvis that was the big inspiration. I used to long, not just to be like him, I wanted to wake up and be Elvis. But as you get older, you realize that can't happen. But what he did was open the doors for us. He opened the doors for people of my age. By the time I was 17 and a half, I'd made my first record.
Wow.
And on my 18th birthday, it was #2 in the British charts. So things happened fast for me. And again, I consider myself very fortunate because, you know, our business is very strange. It's hard to understand why people say, I make it, but there may be 20 other people who sing just as well or better who don't. And that's why that show X Factor, they've hit on something that's actually true. When you actually look at what you do, I find it really hard to know why I'm here. I really don't understand it myself. Okay, I make a sound with my voice. I don't know, you know, there's no way of gauging good and bad. I don't know, I have favorites, but the only thing I ever judge in a record is if someone can sing in tune, that's okay by me. I may not like the style of music they sing, but I can say, but this person sings in tune, it's fine. But I don't know how people decide what they like, and that's the X Factor. It's what will always remain a secret and a mystery to all of us. We don't know why we're here.
That kind of leads to so many different questions. We'll take a break and come back and maybe ask a few of them.
Okay.
Stay with us.